School holidays and a long summer rest beckons. Except during this pandemic year, pupils across the UK have already spent a third of their school time at home.
Our boys struggled with the not having sport, not being able to have the co-curriculum, not being able to socialise. So yeah, huge impact.
It's made teaching difficult and many students have lost out. At the 800 pupil Fulham School for Boys, the day finishes at 5 p.m. A longer school day is seen as one way for pupils to catch up on their learning.
What we need to do, I think, is now just make sure that they're in school as much as possible, that they are exposed to outstanding teaching. Parents, I think the good thing that might come from it now is they've had to be more engaged with their young people's education, so they've got a job to play. But I don't think it should just be now let's throw money at this.
Earlier this month, almost 650,000 pupils had to isolate across England as pupils within their school groups or bubbles tested positive for COVID. The government is now ending the system in schools of grouping children together.
We're going to move away from the sending bubbles home, move away from contact isolation for pupils, so to greatly to reduce the impact on schools of COVID outbreaks.
The UK government's education recovery advisor, before he resigned, called for $20 billion to be spent over 3 years on longer school days and extra tuition. So far, the government have pledged $2.3 billion. But ministers are equally determined that schools should return to normal as soon as possible.
Only a minority of pupils came to school during the lockdowns. There are firm views how the disruption has impacted their learning.
Well, it took a lot more motivation to really get involved, particularly during the first lockdown when the teachers were only just posting work on the classroom. There was no connection with the teacher.
It's in the students' hands now to try our best to do whatever we can so that we can get to where we need to be come September.
Just how much catching up on their education do these students need is a difficult question while the pandemic is still ongoing, or whether the system of examining and testing pupils needs to change.
We have devised and said what our curriculum should be. That doesn't mean it's right. And we have an opportunity now to reflect and say, did we get it right in the first place? How do we do things? Can we do it better going forward?
Testing pupils twice weekly is set to continue after the summer break, and they'll be expected to be at school unless they're showing symptoms of COVID or tested positive.